John Miller straightened his formal blue uniform as he walked down the long corridor toward the council chambers. His steps echoed against the polished stone floor. Today would change everything. After 50 years of humans being treated poorly by alien species, Earth had made its decision. Lisa Grant walked beside him, carrying important documents in a slim black case. Her face looked serious, but her eyes showed she believed in what they were about to do. "Are we really going through with this?" she asked quietly. John nodded. "We have no choice. They denied our request for equal voting rights for the 12th time. Enough is enough." The massive doors to the Galactic Council chamber slid open silently. Inside, 200 representatives from different worlds sat in rising circular tiers. Some had scales, others tentacles. A few were made of living crystal. The chamber buzzed with the sounds of many languages being translated. John walked slowly to the center of the room where a round platform waited. Lisa handed him the official document, her hand steady despite the importance of the moment. The council leader, a tall being with gray skin and 4 arms, raised one hand. The room fell silent. "Ambassador Miller of Earth, you have requested an unscheduled address. The council recognizes Earth's representative." John took a deep breath and looked around the chamber. Some aliens watched with interest, others with boredom, a few with clear dislike. "Distinguished representatives of the Galactic Council," John began, his voice clear and strong in the large room. "For 50 years, humanity has been part of this ancient institution. For 50 years, we have followed your rules, paid your taxes, and provided our unique technologies and resources." He paused as several council members shifted uncomfortably. "For 50 years, we have repeatedly asked for the same rights and respect given to other members. For 50 years, we have been denied." The Zarn representative, a blue jellyfish-like creature floating in a special tank, moved forward. "Earth is still too young to have full council rights. Your species has only been in space for a short time. The council has existed for 4,000 years. You must earn your place." John smiled without humor. "We have helped defend council space against 3 invasions. Our scientists have solved medical problems that affected dozens of your worlds. Our trade benefits every economy represented here. Tell me, what more must we do to earn our place?" When no one answered, John unfolded the document Lisa had given him. "Therefore, by unanimous decision of Earth's United Government, I am authorized to announce the following. Humanity hereby formally withdraws from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. All human worlds and colonies will now operate independently of Council jurisdiction." The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Several representatives stood up, waving their limbs or appendages in protest. The council leader banged a ceremonial staff against the floor. "This is unprecedented. No species has ever voluntarily left the council. The consequences would be severe. Your worlds would lose trading rights, protection, access to shared technology." "We understand the consequences," John interrupted. "We have prepared for them. Humanity will forge its own path among the stars." The Drevix representative, a reptilian being with sharp teeth, hissed angrily. "This is nothing but a bargaining tactic. The humans seek to force concessions." John shook his head. "This is not a negotiation. This is goodbye." He placed the document on the small table at the center of the chamber, the formal place for declarations. Then, without another word, he turned his back on the council and walked toward the exit. Lisa and the 12 other human representatives stood and followed him. Behind them, the council chamber dissolved into chaos. Various species shouted, argued, or sat in stunned silence. As the human delegation boarded their shuttle, Lisa looked at John. "Do you think they believe we're serious?" John looked out the viewport at the massive council station growing smaller as they pulled away. "They will soon. The galaxy is about to learn that humans don't make empty threats." The shuttle accelerated away from the station, carrying the news that would shake the foundations of galactic society. Admiral Kate Williams stood on the bridge of the UES Constellation, Earth's largest and most powerful spaceship. Through the main view screen, she watched the stars against the blackness of space. The ship hummed quietly around her as crew members worked at their stations. Her second-in-command, Frank Peters, walked up to her with a data pad in his hand. His face looked serious. "It's official, Admiral. Ambassador Miller just left the Council station. They really did it." Kate nodded slowly. She had known this was coming, but hearing it made her stomach tighten. "So we're on our own now?" "Yes, ma'am. All human ships are being called back to our space. Defense plans are active." Kate turned to face the bridge crew. Everyone had stopped working to listen. "This changes everything. From this moment, we defend ourselves without Council help. Set alert level to yellow." Across human space, similar scenes played out. On space stations, colonies and ships, people gathered around screens to hear the news. Earth had left the Galactic Council. After 50 years, humans would stand alone. On Mars Colony, the largest human settlement away from Earth, Governor Paul Jones spoke to a crowd of worried people gathered in the main dome. "Today is not a day to fear," he said, his voice calm and strong. "Today is a day of freedom. For too long, the Council has treated us like children, taking our resources and ideas while giving little in return." The crowd listened quietly. Some looked afraid, others nodded in agreement. "Our farms will still grow food. Our factories will still make what we need. Our ships will still fly between our worlds," Paul continued. "But now we decide our own future." A young woman raised her hand. "What about trade? We need materials from Council worlds." Paul smiled. "We've been preparing for this for years. We have stored enough critical supplies to last 3 years. By then, our new mining operations in the asteroid belt will replace what we used to trade for." Back on Earth, in the city of New Washington, the United Government met in emergency session. President Diane Clark looked at the faces of world leaders gathered around the large round table. "The Council has already frozen our accounts in their banks," she said. "They think this will force us to come back." The Russian leader, Sergei, laughed without humor. "They understand nothing about humans if they think money will make us surrender." Diane nodded. "We've moved most of our funds already. Now we must stand united like never before." In space, far from Earth, the news traveled at light speed. On trading stations and neutral worlds, reactions varied widely. In a busy bar on Centauri Station, a group of alien traders watched the news with surprise. A tall green Arcturian turned to his human drinking partner, Steve Rogers. "Your people are either very brave or very foolish," the alien said. "No one leaves the Council." Steve took a drink before answering. "We tried playing by their rules for 50 years. Time to try something new." The Arcturian's large eyes blinked slowly. "My people joined the Council 300 years ago. We still don't have full voting rights." "Maybe it's time more species question the old ways," Steve suggested. Meanwhile, on the Council station, emergency meetings lasted through the night. The oldest and most powerful Council members gathered in a private chamber. The Zarn representatives' blue tentacles waved in agitation. "We must punish this rebellion quickly. Other species are watching." The ancient Xilari representative, rarely seen at regular meetings, spoke with a voice like rustling leaves. "The humans are not like other species. They do not fear being alone. They are primitive and emotional," hissed the Draviks. "They will come crawling back when they realize what they've lost." The Xilari made a sound like distant thunder, their version of laughter. Perhaps we have just witnessed the beginning of something that will change the galaxy forever. Outside in normal space, human ships moved into defensive positions around Earth and its colonies. A new chapter in humanity's story had begun. 6 months had passed since Earth left the Galactic Council. The grand meeting hall that once welcomed all species now seemed less impressive. Many seats remained empty during sessions. The absence of humans was felt more strongly than anyone had expected. Supreme Orator Klisk of the Voxen Empire stood at the speaking platform. His insect-like body trembled with anger as he struck the table with his hard limb. This cannot continue. He clicked in his native language, translated for all to hear. Human ships now travel freely outside Council rules. They make their own trade deals. They ignore our authority. The Council leader tried to calm the meeting. We have applied all standard punishments. Their trading rights are gone. Their access to shared technology is cut off. Yet they thrive. Klisk responded. My traders report human goods are selling for 3 times normal price. Some council members are secretly buying from them. Across the chamber, representatives avoided looking at each other. Many had indeed found ways around the trade bans. In another part of space, Ambassador Maria Hughes sat in a private meeting room on Arcturus Station. As Earth's new independent representative, she traveled to places where humans might find allies. The Arcturian diplomat across from her had skin the color of emeralds and large, thoughtful eyes. Your people took a great risk, Ambassador Hughes. Maria nodded. We had little choice. 50 years of asking nicely got us nowhere. The Council has stood for thousands of years. Many believe it cannot be challenged. Perhaps that's the problem, Maria said. No system should go so long without change. The Arcturian leaned forward. My government is interested in your new trading terms. Our people have also felt limited by Council rules. After the meeting, Maria sent a secure message to Earth. The list of potential allies grew longer each week. The Arcturians, the Proteans, even some colonies of the Galaxy were showing interest in dealing with humans directly. In her private cabin later, Maria looked at the star map on her wall. Small green dots marked potential friendly worlds. Red showed those hostile to humans. Yellow meant neutral or unknown. Computer, update map with today's information, she said. The map changed. More green appeared, less yellow. The red remained, but it no longer seemed so threatening. Meanwhile, in deep space, hidden observers watched with great interest. The Xilari, one of the oldest species in the galaxy, had been studying humans since first contact. Their ship, invisible to most sensors, recorded everything. They adapt quickly, said First Observer Nith. Most species would struggle after leaving Council protection. Humans seem energized by it. Second Observer Kale moved closer to the viewing screen. They were held back by Council rules. Now they move faster, build faster, think faster. Is that good or bad? Asked the youngest Xilari on board. The first observer's many eyes blinked in sequence. That depends on what they do with their freedom. Back on Earth, in a high-security meeting room, defense leaders gathered around a table. General Sam Carter pointed to images on the main screen. The Draxid have increased patrols near our colony on Taw City. Their ships have weapons ready at all times. Admiral Williams frowned. They're testing us, seeing if we're truly committed to independence. President Clark looked at the images carefully. Are they planning to attack? They want to scare us, Sam said. The Council expects us to come running back for protection. Then we must show strength without starting a war, Admiral Williams replied. I'll take the 7th Fleet to Taw City. We'll make sure the Draxid understand we can defend ourselves. As the meeting continued, a scientist entered with exciting news. Professor Alan Wright's team had made a breakthrough in engine technology. The new Wright drive would make human ships faster than anything the Council had. How soon can we install it on our ships? Asked the President. 6 months for the first vessels, a year for the fleet. Admiral Williams smiled for the first time in days. The Council thinks we'll come crawling back. Instead, we're moving forward at greater speed. Outside the window, the sun set over a changed Earth. Children played in parks while adults discussed the future with hope rather than fear. The path ahead might be difficult, but humans had always thrived on challenges. 1 year had passed since humans left the Council. On Earth, cities glowed with new energy as factories worked day and night. Ships came and went from spaceports, carrying goods to human colonies and friendly alien worlds. Professor Alan Wright stood in front of a large crowd at North American University. Behind him, a huge screen showed the new engine he had created. Cameras broadcast his speech across human space. For too long, the Council kept us dependent on their rare minerals for faster-than-light travel, he said, pointing to the engine design. The right drive changes everything. It uses common materials we can mine ourselves. The crowd applauded loudly. Reporters raised their hands with questions. How fast is it compared to Council ships? Asked a woman in the front row. Ellen smiled. 30% faster, and we're just getting started. In orbit around Jupiter, the massive independent station took shape. Construction ships moved huge sections into place. When finished, it would be the largest human-made structure in space. Chief Engineer Susan Baker floated outside the station in her spacesuit, directing the placement of the final habitat ring. Through her helmet, she spoke to her team. Easy now. Line up the connection points exactly. With careful movements, the ring locked into place. Lights came on along its length as power flowed through the new section. Susan smiled inside her helmet. Perfect. Seal the airlocks and begin pressurization. Inside the station, workers cheered as air filled the new areas. Soon, Independence Station would be home to 50,000 people and the center of human trade in the solar system. Far away, on Alpha Centauri colony, Governor Richard Lee welcomed a delegation of Arcturian traders. The tall green aliens looked around with interest at the human settlement. Your colony has grown since our last visit, said the lead Arcturian. Richard nodded. Without council restrictions, we've doubled our population. Our farms now produce enough food to export. The Arcturian made a gesture of respect. The council said humans would struggle without their help. They were wrong. They underestimated us, Richard replied. They always did. Later that day, the Arcturians signed a direct trade agreement with the colony. Such deals were happening more often across human space. In secret council meetings, reports of human progress caused great concern. The Draxid representative slammed a clawed hand on the table. Their economy should have collapsed by now. How are they doing this? The Zarn representative's blue tentacles waved nervously. They found ways around our trade restrictions. Some of our own members are dealing with them directly. Who? Demanded the Draxid. No one answered. Too many council species had started quiet trade with humans. The council leader spoke carefully. Perhaps we should reconsider our approach. Offer humans limited voting rights to bring them back. The Draxid hissed angrily. Never. That would show weakness. We must increase pressure until they break. On Earth, in the underwater city of New Atlanta, scientists worked on another breakthrough. Dr. Emma Lewis led a team developing new materials that could withstand the pressure of deep ocean and the vacuum of space equally well. The council always kept the best materials for themselves, she told her team as they examined test results. Now we create our own. One of her assistants looked up from a screen. Dr. Lewis, the new compound is 50% stronger than anything the council shared with us. Emma wasn't surprised. They only gave us what they wanted us to have. Now we make what we need. Across human space, similar stories played out. Free from council rules and restrictions, human creativity flourished. New technologies, new medicines, new ways of living in space appeared almost daily. On Independence Station, as Susan Baker watched the first civilian residents move into the completed section, she thought about how far humans had come in just 1 year. They thought we needed them, she said quietly to herself. But we just needed to be free. In the darkness of space beyond Pluto, sensors detected unusual movement. The Draxid were on the move, and they didn't look friendly. Admiral Kate Williams stared at the tactical display on the bridge of the UES Constellation. Red dots showed Draxid warships moving toward the human colony on Tau Ceti. The alien ships moved in attack formation, their weapons ready. How many ships? She asked her tactical officer. 15 warships, Admiral. They claim this is just a routine patrol. Kate's face showed no emotion, but her voice was firm. No patrol needs 15 more ships. This is a show of force. She turned to her communications officer. Contact Captain Eric Daniels on the UES Defiant. Tell him to take the 7th Fleet to Ta City immediately. In space near Ta City, Captain Eric Daniels received the orders. His ship, the UES Defiant, was the newest in the human fleet. It carried the right drive and weapon systems unknown to the Council. Set course for Ta City, he told his crew. Maximum speed. The 7th Fleet moved quickly, arriving at Ta City in half the time the Drax had expected. When the alien ships saw 20 human warships appear, they slowed their approach but didn't turn away. From the bridge of his ship, Eric opened communications with the Draxid commander. This is Captain Daniels of Earth Fleet. You are approaching a human colony with weapons ready. State your purpose. The view screen showed a reptilian face with yellow eyes and sharp teeth. This is Commander Vex of the Draxid Hegemony. We are conducting routine patrols in Council space. Ta City is no longer Council space, Eric replied calmly. It is under human protection. We ask you to change course. The Draxid commander hissed. The Council does not recognize your claim. Move aside or face consequences. Eric did not blink. We will not fire first, Commander, but we will defend our colony. For 3 days, the ships faced each other in space around Ta City. The Draxid tried to push forward. Human ships blocked their path without firing. Tension grew by the hour. On Earth, President Clark met with her security team. Director Sam Martinez of Special Projects brought important news. The quantum shield is ready for testing, he said. If it works, our ships will be protected from Draxid weapons. The president looked concerned. Can we deploy it to Ta City in time? Sam nodded. I've sent the plans to Captain Daniels already. His engineers are installing it now. At Ta City, the Draxid finally made their move. 3 ships broke formation and charged toward the colony. They expected the humans to scatter. Instead, the UES Defiant and 2 other ships moved to block them directly. Shields up, ordered Captain Daniels. Do not fire unless fired upon. The Draxid ships fired their weapons. Bright beams of energy shot toward the human ships. Everyone on the bridge held their breath. The energy beams hit the new quantum shields and scattered harmlessly into space. The shields glowed briefly but held strong. Shields holding at 98%, reported the tactical officer with surprise. On the Draxid ship, Commander Vex could not believe what he saw. Their best weapons had failed to damage the human ships. He had been told humans had weak defenses without Council technology. Fire again, he ordered. Full power. The Draxid fired everything they had. The quantum shields absorbed or deflected all attacks. Not one human ship was damaged. Captain Daniels opened the channel again. Commander Vex, you have tested our defenses and found them strong. We have not returned fire because we wish for peace, but our patience has limits. To make his point clear, he ordered a single missile fired. It passed between the Draxid ships and exploded behind them, far from any ship but close enough to show its power. The explosion was larger than anything the Draxid had seen before. Their sensors couldn't even identify the type of weapon. After a long silence, Commander Vex spoke again. His voice had lost its confidence. We will withdraw our patrol from this region. For now. The Draxid ships turned and left quickly. In his office on Europa, Director Sam Martinez watched the reports from Ta City with satisfaction. He touched a screen showing more secret projects. The Council always thought we shared all our technology, he said to his assistant. They never guessed how much we kept to ourselves. His assistant looked worried. Will there be war? Sam shook his head. No. Today the Draxid learned that attacking humans would cost too much. The Council will have to find another way to deal with us now. 2 years after leaving the Council, human culture was changing in ways no one had expected. Free from trying to fit in with alien standards, art, music, and ideas flourished across human space. In New Beijing on Earth, thousands of people gathered for the opening of a new art exhibition. Artist Olivia Martinez stood next to her massive creation called Unbound. It filled an entire building with moving lights, sounds, and shapes that told the story of humanity's journey to the stars. For too long, we made art that would please the council, Olivia explained to reporters. We tried to copy their styles, follow their rules of beauty. Now we create from our hearts. Visitors from a dozen alien species moved through the exhibition. Many seemed confused by the emotional power of the art, but others were clearly moved. A group of Gellan visitors, known for their natural ability to sense feelings, stood transfixed before one section showing Earth's struggle for independence. Their translucent bodies glowed with shared emotion. We have never experienced art like this, their leader told Olivia. It makes us feel what you felt. Olivia smiled. That's what human art does best. It connects us through feelings. On Alpha Centauri Colony, the first interspecies university opened its doors. Professor William Rivera taught a class about different ways species think and feel. His classroom held humans and aliens sitting side by side. The council taught that all species should think the same way. William told his students, but our differences make us stronger when we learn from each other. A young Procyon student raised a furry hand. In council schools, we were taught that humans are too emotional to be logical. William laughed. Our emotions drive our logic. They give us reasons to solve problems. His book, Freedom as a Galactic Anomaly, was being read across the galaxy. The council had banned it, which only made more people want to read it. Even on council worlds, human culture spread quietly. Music, stories, and ideas moved from person to person. Young aliens especially were drawn to human ways of thinking. On the Arcturian homeworld, a group of young aliens dressed in human-style clothes gathered in secret. They listened to Earth music and discussed human ideas of freedom and equality. My parents say humans are dangerous, said one young Arcturian. But their ideas make more sense than the Council's old rules. Back on Independence Station, the first Galactic Arts Festival not controlled by the Council was underway. Species from 30 different worlds shared their culture freely. Many had never been allowed to perform at Council events because they were considered minor species. Lisa Grant, once Ambassador Miller's aide and now Minister of Culture, watched alien artists perform alongside humans. This is what the Council feared most, she told a friend. Not our weapons or technology, but our ideas. Council observers watched the festival with growing concern. One reported back to the Council, humans do not seek to conquer through force, but through culture. Their ideas spread like a virus. On the Gellan homeworld, the ruling council faced a problem. Thousands of young Gellans were requesting permission to visit human worlds. They are fascinated by human emotion, explained a Gellan elder. Our people find human arts deeply moving. It is too dangerous, said another. Those who return from human worlds speak of freedom and question our traditions. In the end, they could not stop the movement. More Gellans left for human space each month. Some even asked to stay permanently. Professor Rivera was not surprised when he heard. The Council created a galaxy where many species felt trapped by ancient rules. He told his students, we didn't just free ourselves when we left. We showed others they could be free too. On Earth, in a small classroom, human children learned about the many species of the galaxy. Their teachers showed them images of different aliens. In the past, we tried to be more like them, she explained. Now they come to learn from us. A small boy raised his hand. Are they our friends now? The teacher smiled. Some are. Others will be. Change takes time. Outside the window, ships from a dozen worlds landed at the nearby spaceport. The galaxy was coming to Earth, drawn by the light of human freedom. 3 years had passed since humanity left the Council. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Ambassador Maria Hughes stood in the Great Hall of Independence Station, looking at representatives from 27 different species. Some had left the Council. Others had never been allowed to join. "Today we begin something new," Maria said, her voice clear and strong. "The human coalition is not built on power or age, but on respect and equal rights for all." The hall was filled with beings of all shapes and sizes. Tall Arcturians with green skin stood next to furry Proteans. Crystal-bodied Luminians glowed softly beside the insect-like Keth. All watched Maria with hope in their eyes, no matter how many eyes they had. For too long, the Council has decided which species deserve rights and which do not. They judge based on how old your civilization is or how much they need your resources. Many heads nodded in agreement. Every species in the room had stories of Council unfairness. "The Coalition offers something different," Maria continued. "Every member has one vote. Every voice matters. We share technology freely and defend each other as equals." In the front row, Ambassador Zin of the Proteans stood up. His people had waited 200 years for full council rights. "The Protean worlds vote to join the coalition," he announced formally. One by one, representatives stood and joined. The Arcturians, the Keth, the Luminians, even the Gellan, whose emotional connection to humans had grown stronger each year. By the end of the day, 27 species had joined the coalition. Together, they represented nearly a third of the galaxy's trade and controlled key areas of space. On screens across human worlds, people watched the signing ceremony. On Earth, President Nicole Foster addressed the United Nations. "Today marks a new chapter for humanity, and for the galaxy," she said. "We did not plan to create a rival to the Council. We simply wanted to be treated fairly." The crowd applauded loudly. "But in leaving," she continued, "we discovered that many other species felt as we did. Together, we now build what the Council should have been all along." On Council worlds, the news spread quickly. In secret chambers, the oldest Council members met in emergency session. "This cannot stand," hissed the Draxid representative. "They have formed a rival power." The Zarn's blue tentacles waved nervously. "The coalition already controls key trade routes. 3 of our own members have left to join them." The Council leader looked older than ever. "We must respond carefully. Military action would only push more to their side." "Then what do you suggest?" demanded the Draxid. "We must offer concessions, better terms, show that the Council can change." The Draxid laughed, a harsh sound. "After 4,000 years of rules, you think we should change now?" On a small farming planet called New Eden, human colonists worked alongside Keth farmers. The insect-like aliens had special knowledge of soil and plants. The humans shared their water purification technology. Together, they grew more food than either could alone. Colony leader Ben Foster watched humans and aliens working together in the fields. "This is the real strength of the coalition," he told the visiting reporter. "We learn from each other." The reporter, newly arrived from Earth, looked surprised. "I thought the Keth were primitive. The Council classified them as a developing species." Ben shook his head. "The Council was wrong about many things. The Keth understand farming better than any species in the galaxy." A Keth farmer approached, her antennae twitching with pride. "Before humans, we could not join galactic community. Council said we were too young. Now we are equals." In distant parts of the galaxy, species that had never contacted either humans or the Council began to hear of the coalition. Some sent observers, others prepared messages of greeting. The ancient Xulari continued to watch it all unfold. Their observation ships recorded every development. "The humans have changed everything," First Observer Nith noted. "In just 3 years, they have reshaped galactic politics." Second Observer Kale studied the data. "The Council has remained the same for 4,000 years. The humans created change in 3, which is better for the galaxy. That," said Nith, "is what we must determine." On Independence Station, as the signing ceremony ended, Maria Hughes looked out at the stars through a large window. The coalition was born. A new balance of power now existed in the galaxy. No one knew what would happen next, but for the first time in thousands of years, the future was not controlled by the Council alone. 5 years had passed since humanity walked away from the Council. Admiral Kate Williams, now commander of all human fleets, stood on the bridge of her flagship. A message had just arrived that few had expected. The Council wanted to talk. "They're asking for negotiations," Kate told her officers. "After 5 years of trying to break us, they want to meet." Her second-in-command looked surprised. "Do they want us to come back?" Kate shook her head. "No, they want to discuss a formal relationship between the Council and the Coalition. They're finally accepting we're here to stay." The meeting would take place at a neutral location, a space station orbiting a distant pulsar. Both sides agreed to bring only 3 ships each. John Miller, the man who had first announced humanity's departure from the Council, was asked to lead the Coalition team despite his age. As his shuttle approached the meeting station, he looked out at the amazing sight of the pulsar, a spinning star shooting beams of light through space. "It's beautiful," said his aide, a young man named Greg Wilson. John nodded. "A good place for a new beginning." Inside the station, a large room had been prepared. The Coalition delegation entered first. John Miller led the way, followed by representatives from the Arcturians and the Proteans. They took seats at one side of a long table. The door on the other side opened. The Council delegation entered. The Supreme Arbiter came first, a tall being in formal robes. With him were representatives of the oldest Council species, the Zarn and the Xilari. John was surprised to see the Xilari. They rarely attended Council functions. Their presence showed how important this meeting was. "Welcome," said the Supreme Arbiter, his tone respectful. "We appreciate your willingness to meet." John noticed the difference immediately. Gone was the condescending attitude the Council had always shown humans. Now they spoke as equals. "The galaxy has changed," John observed, "not through war as so many feared, but through the simple act of walking away and building something better." The Supreme Arbiter nodded slowly. "The Council has existed for 4,000 years. Change does not come easily to us, but we recognize that change is necessary." For 3 days, they discussed how the Council and Coalition would interact. Trade agreements, diplomatic relations, shared space. The talks were not easy, but they moved forward. On the 3rd day, news arrived that shocked the Council delegation. 3 more Council worlds had voted to leave and join the Coalition. "This is why we must reach agreement," the Supreme Arbiter said quietly. "More will follow if we do not adapt." As the final documents were prepared, John took a moment to speak privately with the Xilari representative. The ancient being's many eyes studied him with interest. "Your people have accomplished something remarkable," the Xilari said in its soft voice. "You have changed the galaxy without conquest." John smiled. "We only wanted to be treated fairly. When that wasn't possible within the Council, we found another way." "The Council believed power came from control," the Xilari observed. "You showed that true power comes from cooperation." When John returned to Earth, he was welcomed as a hero. At a special ceremony, President Foster thanked him for his service, from the day he walked out of the Council to the new agreement he had helped create. "How does it feel?" she asked him privately after the ceremony. "To see everything that has happened because of that moment when you walked away." John looked out at the crowd of humans and aliens celebrating together. "I only took the first step. Everyone else built the path." Across human space, people watched the ceremony on screens. On colonies and stations, humans and alien friends gathered to mark the historic moment. On Earth, children who had been born after humanity left the Council played in parks under open skies. They had never known a time when humans were not free to choose their own path among the stars. A little girl looked up at the night sky, pointing at the stars. "Which ones can we visit?" she asked her father. "All of them," he answered with a smile. "The whole galaxy is open to us now." The girl nodded, already planning her future adventures. For her, and for all humanity, The stars were not just lights in the darkness. They were doorways to a future where humans would never again accept being treated as less than they were. The galaxy had shuddered when humans walked away from the Council. Now it moved forward on a new path, forever changed by that brave first step.